The grand hall of the luxury penthouse shimmered under sparkling chandeliers, each crystal reflecting the warm glow of candlelight and the shimmer of elegantly wrapped gifts. Sarah, radiant in a flowing maternity dress, was surrounded by friends and family, all gathered to celebrate her birthday. Balloons and soft pastels floated gracefully near the ceiling, and a table overflowing with delicate pastries, flowers, and a towering cake added to the festive atmosphere. Laughter and chatter filled the air, creating a perfect picture of happiness and anticipation. Among the guests stood Mia, Sarah's best friend, offering quiet smiles and gentle encouragement, subtly making sure Sarah felt loved and supported throughout the evening. Jason, Sarah's fiancé, moved through the crowd with polished charm, greeting guests and delivering compliments, yet there was a shadow in his eyes, a secret he carried carefully. As the evening reached its peak, Jason took the microphone, drawing all eyes to him. Gasps of surprise echoed when he dropped to one knee and, to Sarah's utter disbelief, proposed not to her but to Mia. The room froze, whispers cascading like wildfire. Sarah's heart sank, her stomach twisting with shock and humiliation. Betrayal stabbed deep, leaving her momentarily paralyzed as the festive atmosphere crumbled around her, replaced by a silence heavy with disbelief and emotional pain. Sarah stood frozen, her mind racing as the words of Jason's proposal echoed in her ears. Disbelief washed over her first, followed quickly by a sharp sting of hurt that seemed to pierce through every layer of her being. Confusion tangled with anger, a whirlwind of emotions that made her knees weak and her chest heavy. Around her, the guests reacted in a mixture of shock and sympathy. Some rushed forward with soft words of consolation, offering tissues and gentle embraces, while others exchanged judgmental glances, their whispers slicing through the tense atmosphere like sharp knives. Jason and Mia, however, carried on as if nothing had happened, their smiles smug, eyes gleaming with self-satisfaction, exuding an arrogance that made Sarah's blood boil even further. Overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment, Sarah quietly excused herself and retreated to a private corner of the penthouse, seeking a moment to gather her thoughts and calm the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. As she leaned against the cool marble wall, her breath steadying, a small but resolute spark ignited within her. The betrayal had cut deep, but it also awakened a determination. She would not remain a passive victim. A plan to reclaim her dignity and confront the deceitful pair began to take shape in her mind, quiet but unyielding. Still reeling from the shocking proposal, Sarah sought refuge in the comforting presence of her older cousin Laura, who had always been a pillar of strength in her life. They sat together in the quiet of Laura's elegantly furnished living room, away from prying eyes and the prying whispers of party guests. Sarah poured out her heart, recounting every detail of Jason's betrayal and Mia's audacious acceptance, her voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and anger. Laura listened intently, offering gentle words of support and guidance, reminding Sarah to stay composed and avoid rash actions that might worsen the situation. Recognizing the complexity of the circumstances, Laura introduced Sarah to a mentor figure, an accomplished family friend with experience in business and social strategy, who could provide practical advice on navigating the personal, social, and financial fallout. Over tea and quiet conversation, they discussed the potential legal implications of Jason's betrayal, the financial vulnerabilities Sarah might face, and the social consequences of public exposure. Each insight sharpened Sarah's awareness, helping her understand the full weight of the situation. Torn between the raw heartbreak of the betrayal and the need to act with calculated strategy, Sarah felt a mix of vulnerability and growing determination. She realized that confronting the deceit required patience, intelligence, and careful planning rather than impulsive reactions, planting the first seeds of her empowerment. Sarah spent the following days in quiet contemplation, determined not to let her emotions dictate her next moves. The initial shock and hurt still lingered, but she knew that impulsive reactions would only give Jason and Mia the upper hand. With a notebook in hand, she began carefully outlining potential strategies, weighing the merits of social exposure, legal action, and personal empowerment. Every option was considered thoughtfully, documenting conversations and interactions for possible legal leverage, compiling messages and evidence that highlighted Jason and Mia's deceit, and strengthening her own social presence to ensure she could confront the betrayal on her own terms. She observed Mia and Jason from a distance, attending public events and monitoring their patterns, noting the smug arrogance and overconfidence that made them predictably careless. Every slip, every overconfident gesture, became a potential point of leverage. As Sarah's focus sharpened, her emotional state shifted. The hurt began transforming into a quiet, burning determination. The sorrow of betrayal became a fuel for strategy, and her mind, once clouded with confusion, grew clear and deliberate. She started practicing subtle ways to assert control in social settings, planning how she might confront them publicly or expose their duplicity when the timing was most advantageous. Each calculated step strengthened her confidence, and what had begun as a personal crisis evolved into a mission of empowerment, setting the stage for a confrontation that would leave Jason and Mia unprepared for the storm she was about to unleash. Sarah requested a private meeting with Jason under the pretense of discussing their relationship calmly, arranging it in a quiet, neutral space where no one could overhear. As he arrived, his usual charm was on display, but Sarah's gaze was steady, her posture composed and firm. "How could you do this, Jason?" she began, her voice calm but edged with controlled anger. "Not to me, but to me on my birthday while I'm carrying your child." Jason's initial response was a mix of defensiveness and arrogance. "Sarah, it's complicated. You have to understand it's not what it looks like," he tried to explain, weaving excuses and half-truths with practiced ease. But Sarah listened quietly, her expression unwavering, her mind sharp and analytical. She asked pointed questions, forcing him to confront the absurdity of his betrayal, highlighting inconsistencies in his story. Slowly, she began planting seeds of doubt, subtly reminding him that actions have consequences, that public and private exposure could ruin reputations and relationships alike. With every word, the power dynamic shifted. Jason's usual dominance wavered as Sarah's calm authority and strategic reasoning took hold. By the end of the conversation, she had not only asserted herself but also left Jason unsettled, realizing that the woman he had underestimated was far more composed, intelligent, and capable than he had imagined. Sarah decided that the most effective way to confront Jason and Mia was through a carefully calculated public exposure. She began by crafting a series of posts on social media, each one meticulously structured to highlight the deception and manipulation she had endured. Screenshots of incriminating texts, snippets of private conversations, and discrete video clips of interactions at parties were compiled with precision, each piece reinforcing the narrative of betrayal. She also included testimonials from friends and staff who had witnessed suspicious behavior, providing layers of credibility to her story. Once posted, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Followers and strangers alike expressed shock and outrage, flooding the comments with messages of support for Sarah and condemnation of Jason and Mia's actions. The story quickly gained traction, shared across platforms, amplifying the emotional and social impact. Mia, who had once carried herself with unshakable confidence, began to show cracks in her composure. Her arrogance faltered in public, and subtle hesitations and nervous gestures betrayed the pressure she felt from the growing scrutiny. Jason, too, struggled to maintain his polished facade, caught between personal humiliation and the looming consequences of exposure. As Sarah's story gained momentum, suspense built steadily. Every post, every reaction added fuel to the unfolding drama, leaving readers and followers eager to witness how the tables would turn and what her next strategic move would be, heightening anticipation for the inevitable confrontation. The social media storm surrounding Sarah's revelation quickly spilled into mainstream media, with news outlets, online blogs, and gossip channels picking up the scandal and broadcasting it to a far wider audience. Headlines screamed of betrayal, deception, and audacious arrogance, placing Jason and Mia squarely under the public microscope. Jason's carefully cultivated reputation as a successful and charming millionaire began to crumble, each article and post adding another layer of scrutiny that exposed his duplicity. Mia, once admired in social circles for her poise and charm, found her social image tarnished alongside Jason's. her confidence visibly shaken as whispers of judgment and criticism followed her everywhere. Friends and family who had previously been cautious or hesitant now began openly supporting Sarah, rallying around her in solidarity and amplifying her narrative. Social pressure mounted, making it increasingly difficult for Jason and Mia to maintain their composure or manipulate perceptions. Tension thickened as both realized the magnitude of the exposure. Every misstep and arrogant display was now documented and publicly condemned. The world seemed to watch their every move, the stakes escalating with each passing hour. The atmosphere was electric with suspense, as Sarah's careful orchestration of social and public exposure forced Jason and Mia into a corner, setting the stage for the ultimate confrontation. Recognizing that public exposure alone might not be enough, Sarah sought the guidance of a trusted legal counsel, someone experienced in family law and contractual disputes. They reviewed the terms of her engagement, financial arrangements, and any assets that could be impacted by Jason's betrayal. Every detail was scrutinized to ensure that Sarah and her unborn child would be fully protected, leaving no loophole for Jason or Mia to exploit. Armed with this knowledge, she took calculated steps, drafting notices, documenting potential claims, and subtly signaling that legal action was a very real possibility. These carefully considered maneuvers unsettled Jason, who had assumed he could manipulate or intimidate her into silence. The threat of annulled contracts or financial repercussions forced him to reconsider his arrogance and complacency. With each strategic move, Sarah's position strengthened, and her confidence soared. This phase of her revenge was markedly different. It was intelligent, controlled, and completely under her command. She wasn't acting out of pure emotion. Every step was deliberate, ensuring maximum impact with minimal risk. Jason, who had previously underestimated her resilience and strategic mind, began to realize that Sarah was far more formidable than he had imagined. The stakes were higher than ever, and the balance of power was shifting unmistakably in her favor, setting the stage for the public confrontation that would cement her victory. The gala hall shimmered with crystal chandeliers and soft golden lighting, a scene of elegance and celebration that belied the storm about to unfold. Sarah entered with quiet confidence, her gown flowing gracefully as she made her way toward Jason and Mia, who were unsuspecting in the center of the room. The crowd sensed the tension as whispers rippled through the attendees, curiosity and anticipation mingling with the usual chatter. Standing directly before them, Sarah's voice rang clear and controlled, cutting through the murmurs. "I trusted you, Jason," she began, her gaze unwavering. "I believed in our future, but you chose deceit over honesty, proposing to Mia while I carry your child." Jason opened his mouth to deflect, but Sarah held up her hand, silencing him. "The messages, the witnesses, and the evidence speak for themselves. Your arrogance has blinded you, and now it's exposed for everyone to see." Gasps and murmurs spread through the room as family and friends watched in astonishment, witnessing the humiliation unfold firsthand. Mia's composure cracked, her confident smile faltering under the weight of public scrutiny. Jason attempted to regain control, but the carefully orchestrated exposure, combined with Sarah's calm, cold logic, left him scrambling, powerless and ashamed. The moral and emotional victory was complete. Sarah stood tall, dignified and unwavering, while Jason and Mia's arrogance lay in ruins, a public testament to her resilience and strategic brilliance. In the weeks following the public confrontation, Sarah gradually found emotional closure, leaning on the unwavering support of her family and close friends. Their presence provided comfort and reassurance, reminding her that she was not alone and that love and loyalty could triumph over betrayal. Each day brought small victories: shared laughter over coffee, gentle encouragement during prenatal appointments, and heartfelt conversations that reaffirmed her strength and value. Her pregnancy progressed smoothly, each kick and movement a living symbol of hope, renewal, and the bright future that awaited her. Through reflection, Sarah internalized powerful lessons about trust, personal empowerment, and resilience, recognizing that her ability to confront adversity with dignity had strengthened her in ways she never imagined. Meanwhile, Jason and Mia faced the inevitable consequences of their actions, encountering social scrutiny, legal challenges, and the emotional fallout of their reckless choices. Their arrogance and deceit left them isolated, while Sarah's integrity and courage elevated her standing among those who mattered most. With clarity and determination, she began to rebuild her life, making decisions that prioritized her well-being and the safety of her child. Stronger, wiser, and more confident, Sarah embraced the future with optimism, ready to step into a life defined by her own choices and the lessons of a betrayal she had transformed into empowerment. Months after the scandal, Sarah's story had transcended her immediate circle, reaching a global audience and establishing her as a symbol of courage, intelligence, and resilience. Articles, social media posts, and news segments highlighted her composure, strategic thinking, and ability to confront betrayal with dignity, inspiring countless others to face their own challenges without fear. Within her personal life, family bonds deepened. Relatives who had once been distant grew closer, offering unwavering support and celebrating her strength. Friends rallied around her, forming a solid network that reinforced the lessons of loyalty, trust, and empowerment she had demonstrated. Sarah reflected on the journey she had endured, the pain of betrayal, the careful orchestration of exposure, and the calculated steps that led to her ultimate vindication. Each moment contributed to her growth, teaching her the value of patience, strategic thinking, and self-respect. As she prepared for motherhood, the future felt bright and full of promise, each kick of her unborn child a reminder of hope and new beginnings. Sarah had not only overcome manipulation and deceit but had also transformed her experience into a legacy of resilience and triumph, ready to embrace a life defined by her choices, strength, and unwavering dignity.